Now, this is an alternate rule to use with spell scrolls. Now, back in the day, spell scrolls were usable pretty much by anyone who was coming across them. They were just kind of a bonus spell. You needed the item. It needed to be something that the DM handed to you effectively. But it meant anyone would be able to cast this scroll that you had handy. And sometimes they could be overpowered, but they were very much affected by when the DM provided them or when the dungeon provided them. Now, they've changed a bit in their use now, because a spell scroll has two very strong restrictions on it now. I mean, spell scrolls are quite a useful item, and one of the things is it means you can cast a spell with no material components. But effectively, the two major restrictions that have been introduced in recent editions are you can only cast the spell scroll if it is a spell that your class would be able to cast anyway. And the other one is, if it is higher than your level, then a difficulty check comes in. So if you'd be able to cast this anyway, then that's fine. You just cast it and it's done. If it's higher than your level, then there is a chance it will fail. Now, there's a bit of a problem with this, because effectively that means spell scrolls serve one of two roles. One, it's just a bonus spell for you. Whether it's something that you've made yourself with the different rules for that, or something that you found in a dungeon, effectively it means that a spellcaster of the appropriate class gets a bonus spell on top of what they would have had previously. Just a little ace in the hole. Maybe it's a Revivify spell that your cleric can have tucked in, so even if he runs out of spell points, he can just pull it out and you've got it there. So it's a bonus spell, but it's only useful for specific people. So it's almost like it's just an extra bonus for the spellcaster. I mean, there are certainly things for wizards that you can copy a spell out and learn a spell that you didn't have before, but that's a fairly specific bonus. And the other one is for higher level spells. Now, it's an intriguing idea to have this very powerful spell that you wouldn't normally have access to. But it's a bit tricky, because if you are rolling a difficulty check, then effectively it's a gamble whether this will work. So you can't build a plan on it. And it means if you are trying to do something significant with that spell scroll, there's a significant chance that this will completely fail and your plan will come to nothing. So what I was looking at is there a way we can change that? Is there a way that we can change how spell scrolls are working? So they still have some restrictions on them, because you don't want them to just be used all over the place and buff spellcasters to the ridiculous level, or even worse, make fighters running around casting fireball, because they've got a whole mass of spell scrolls. And you didn't want it to just be, I've got a scroll of wish, and so my first level character can just flip the world upside down. That's almost a failing of the DM if that happens. But you don't want it to be unbalanced. So what we really want is a way that spell scrolls are a little more versatile than the existing rules, but they still have a cost. There is still a sense of you don't use these just recklessly. And what I wanted was this sense of it's not a chance, it's not a gamble, and if it comes off, then there's no consequences, and if it doesn't, then your plans just crumble to dust. What I wanted is a sense of how do you use spell scrolls in such a way that you have to pay the cost to use them. There's a cost to the party and an effect and an impact, but you still have a lot of versatility with them. So this is the suggestion. If you are using a spell scroll up to your existing level, then it's fine. There's no significant impact. It is effectively like a bonus spell, as it is in the current rules. If you are using a spell scroll that is more powerful than your level, then it is guaranteed to work. But there are two costs it comes with. One is that when you read the scroll, for each level it is above yours, spell level we're talking. So if you are a 9th level caster casting 5th level spells and you are reading a 7th level spell, then we are talking about 2 spell levels above what you can cast. For each level this is above your casting ability, you take a level of fatigue casting the spell. So it literally drains your life force to cast. And in addition to that, it lowers your maximum hit points by a hit dice for each notch. So a 9th level caster who can cast 5th level spells, casting a 7th level spell, is taking 2 levels of fatigue, and then they are rolling 2 of their hit dice, and that damage is a permanent reduction to their maximum hit dice until all the fatigue is removed. So once they have slept off all the fatigue and gotten back to no fatigue levels whatsoever, those hit dice come back. But what you've got is this sense of you can cast this spell, but you take a hit. It smashes your body. And that means there's a cap on how powerful you want to get, because if you are casting 4 levels above yourself, it is absolutely going to smash you. It does a lot of damage. 4 fatigue levels is no small deal. And that hit dice, and particularly for classes that have larger hit dice, that can potentially be quite powerful in terms of the amount of hit points you lose. So that means you can build a plan around the idea of a spell scroll, a powerful scroll that you find. But you're going to have to account for the fact that whoever reads the scroll, this is going to knock the wind out of their sails for a while. It's really going to leave them hampered. The other thing is, if you are not of the appropriate class, you can still cast the spell, but you count as level 0. So if a barbarian wants to cast a fireball, it's 3 levels of fatigue and 3d12 of damage reduced off their hit points until they get that fatigue back. Effectively, what this means is that a spell scroll, instead of being a gamble, this might work with no consequences or it might not work at all, it's one of these things that we have to pay the cost. So you keep it in the toolkit for those times when you really, really need it. That's when you bring it out and bring it to bear. Or for a key plan, like you've got a 9th level gate spell and you need to get to a specific plane of hell or bring someone back. Your 5th level caster can do it, but it's going to smash them. So that's an alternative rule for scrolls. Now you need to do some tweaks. You need to do a bit of thinking, and there'll be times like someone might say, well, I am multi-classed, so I have lots of different hit dice, so what happens? And my response to that would probably be, you start with the biggest dice first. So if you've taken a level of barbarian and everything else is level 8 warlock, then you start with the d12 and then you go to the level 8 dice. So if you're taking 3 levels of fatigue, then you're rolling a d12 and 2d8, and that's the damage you're losing off your max hit points. It also means that fighters and things like that have very large hit dice, they take more of a hit from reading a scroll that's not appropriate to them, which for me feels entirely appropriate. You don't want fighters and barbarians to just be throwing spells around all the time without a substantial cost. It's not going to work for everyone, but give it a try. Have a go and see if you think it flies. And if you try it for a few gaming sessions and you kind of go, no, this is overpowered, or I wouldn't use this because fatigue levels is just too nasty, then you don't have to use it. But I would love to hear in the comments, is it workable? Have you tried it? How'd it go? Thanks for listening. I'll see you next time.